Welcome, 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 welcome. It's that time live with Dr. E, where we get to talk about anything you want, right? Anything you want, anything you want to cover. We get to talk about, of course, the theme is life of a CISO, or more importantly, how to be a world-class CISO. So this is open Q&A. I'd love to hear from you, what your challenges, what your issues, what you're curious about, or where I can help you. One of my big themes, if you've been following me on social and Instagram and others, that I've really been hitting hard is this concept of limitless. Whether you realize it or not, what you want, whether it's to become a world-class CISO, whether it's to become a CISO, right? Not everyone wants to be world-class. You're probably not going to like me if you just want to be average, which that's okay, right? That's good. That's good. Not everyone's for everyone. So that's all cool. But I know I also get a lot of people that want to get into cybersecurity and become an engineer and entry level. And here's the reality. You are already what you want. So if you want to become a security engineer, you are a security engineer. You might not have the title, but you have what it takes within you. And if you want to become a CISO, if you've never been a chief information security officer before, and you want to become a CISO, that's also already inside of you. Here's the reality. The only reason you're not where you want to be is because there is an obstacle in the way. If there wasn't an obstacle, you would already have that job that you wanted. If there were no obstacles, if there was nothing in the way, you would be a security engineer. If there was nothing in the way, you would be a CISO. And if there was nothing in the way, you would be a CISO at a Fortune 50 company. So the reality is this. The reason why you don't have what you want is we have to figure out what the obstacle is. What is it that's standing in your way? And that's why, if you've noticed over the last several years, I'm doing this transition from teacher to coach. And the difference is a teacher will go in and teach you a skill set. They'll teach you about protocols. They'll teach you about what a CISO is. But after the 5 or 6 days, their job is done and they're no longer really invested in you. So they basically show up, give you that knowledge that you need. And then after, whether it's a event of 5 or 6 days or it's a college class of 15 weeks, it's basically done. And then you're on your own. A coach is invested in your overall success. A coach cares about making sure you are as successful as possible. And to me, that explains why I cover a lot of different areas. I get a lot of people going, Eric, why in your life of a CISO are you talking about mindset? Are you talking about health? Are you talking about fitness? Are you talking about all those areas? I'm like, because I care about their success. And the reality is, I don't care what the obstacle is. I want them to be successful. The reality is, most people, when they don't have the job that they want, think they need more technical knowledge. I always laugh at these folks. And once again, loving my heart, I'm not trying to be mean, but I always crack up when you have these folks that are in their 20s giving people career advice. I'm like, you've been in the job for 2 or 3 years, right? And they're giving career advice to folks, and they mean well, and I appreciate people trying. It's always good to share knowledge, but I'm like, all they want to talk about are certs, and more certs. And the problem is, a lot of companies, because that's where they make their money, want to talk about certs, and more certs. You need your Security Plus, you need your Network Plus, you need your EC Plus or Plus or whatever the pluses are out there. But the reality is, that's not the problem. The problem is you don't believe that you have what it takes to become that person. And that's where my specialty is. I've worked with folks where for 3 years, they go, Eric, I keep taking more training courses and I keep getting more certifications and I keep getting more knowledge and information. But the reality is, Eric, I'm not CISO material, and therefore no one's going to hire me as a CISO. Play that back. Play that back in your mind for a second. All that other stuff, what I care about is those words. I am not CISO material. So let me ask you a question. If that obstacle is in front of you, if that big boulder is on that path for you becoming a CISO, and in your conscious and subconscious, all you're playing, I'm not CISO material. I'm not CISO material. No one's going to hire me as a CISO. No one's going to hire me as a CISO. I'm not CISO material. No one's going to hire me as a CISO. I'm not CISO material. Do you really think you're going to be able to get a job as a CISO if that's what your focus and target is? You're basically telling your mind, my goal, my target is to prove that I'm not CISO material. So what is the best way for your mind to prove it? By getting you rejected over and over and over again proves that you're right, proves that you're correct. But here's the crazy part. I take people that have been trying to get a job as a CISO for 2, 3, 4 years. I don't teach them any new knowledge. What I do is ask a simple question. Is that really true? Is it really factually true? Can you prove to me 100% with a mathematical equation based truly on facts that you are not CISO material? And then they start going, oh, but Eric, I'm like, okay, let's stop this. Let's stop this. Do me a favor. Define for me. Give me characteristics of what is CISO material. And they sort of look at me and go, what are you talking about? I said, you're saying you're not something, which means if you're saying you're not, you must know what it is. So please tell me what is CISO material that had you come to the conclusion that you're not this material. And most of the time, they sort of just look at me a little weird. They can't really answer it. So I push a little harder and they continue. So with one case, they went in and gave me 35 attributes of what CISO material is. So I wrote them down. I said, great. So according to you, do I need to have like all of these? Or like if I just have some of these? Like what exactly do I need to have of this 35 attributes that you would categorize somebody as CISO material? Well, Eric, if you have 20, great. So if you have 20 of the 35. Now, just to pause for a second. There's absolutely no truth to that. They've made this up. This idea that there's 35 attributes that you must have 20, right? It's fabricated in their mind. But here's the point. I want to get them fixed as quick as possible. I want to get you what you want as quick as possible. So yes, I could have spent time proving to them that there is no such thing as CISO material, that these 35 attributes are pure you know what and have no validity. But that isn't the quickest way for me to get the results I want. So I'm going to play their game. So I just wanted to be clear. This is all in their mind, but if it's in their mind, I can play with it and work with it. So I said, great. If you have 20 of the 35, you're a CISO material. Yes. So let's go through this with a highlighter. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? Yes. Do you have this? Yes. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. And we highlight it. And I said, whoa, you have 23 of the 35 attributes. You told me you only need 20. So doesn't that mean You're CISO material. And it's like this light goes on. And all of a sudden, they're like, you're absolutely right. I am CISO material. And then it takes a little more work, but within 3 to 4 months, they're getting job offer after job offer after job offer. Now, here's why I like the approach I took, because check this out. What if for some reason we went through and they only had 17? So we went through and they only had 17 of these 35. So then I would say, okay, that means according to your formula, for you to be CISO material, we need 3 more. So let's look at these remaining items that are here, and let's see which ones can you get the quickest and the fastest. So we go through and say, oh, this one. Okay, so these 3, if you spent an hour a day, you could have these 3 in 3 weeks, right? Yes, great. So do that, and then in 3 weeks, you're CISO material, and we can get you a job as a CISO. So notice what I did is I identified what that obstacle was, and then we dissected, either proved it was true or came up with a plan to make it true or accurate, so then they could achieve and get what they wanted. But that's the piece that no one likes to deal with, because it's not as clear cut, yet it's the piece that changes everyone's life. You can continue to get technical knowledge, but if you don't remove the obstacle, you're not going to get to where you need to be. All right, so let's jump in. David is in the house. Hope you are well, Dr. E. I am doing awesome, my friend. Appreciate you checking. Can you please go over some tips on how to address IR, BC, and DR? So great. So incident response, business continuity, disaster recovery. First, and this is one that I find a great tip, is identifying to your team, to colleagues, and to your executives what these terms actually mean. Because I find the biggest struggle we have with most of our clients is we have no idea. Sorry, we do, but the rest of the company has no idea what we're talking about. So imagine I'm saying this is an orange hard drive, but in your world, this is a blue hard drive. And to the executives, this is a green hard drive. Imagine the difficulty if you continually going, great, I bought you an orange hard drive. And they're like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, yes, you did. Because in their mind, when you say orange, they mean blue. So this isn't blue, so you haven't given them what they wanted. So that's the issue I find, even with the term cybersecurity. So business continuity planning, that is proactive. Business continuity planning is let's proactively look at the organization. Let's look at what could go wrong, and let's proactively fix it before it goes wrong. Now, the biggest tip I can give you with that is you need to put it in percents and dollars. So if you go to an exec and you're like, listen, we have a single point of failure, and if this goes down, everything's bad, and bad things happen, and bad things occur, and bad things happen to our customers, and bad things happen, that doesn't mean anything to them. But what if you go in and say, okay, we currently have one connection to the internet. Based on the area we're in, there is a 90% chance we will have a 3 to 4 hour outage. Every year for the last 15 years in this area, because it's heavy construction, a backhoe tends to take out a line somewhere between us and the DMARC. And I can show you the historical data, but it's almost a guarantee every single year we will have an outage of 3 to 4 hours. Based on our current business An outage of 3 to 4 hours would cost us $2 million. We could go in and we could run an alternative line that goes to a completely separate DMAR point that would remove that 3 to 4 hour outage, that $2 million loss, and that would cost us $300K a year. Would you like to accept that risk, or would you like to address that risk? So we have a risk that has almost a 99% chance of occurring once a year, and it will cost us $2 million, and we want $300K to fix it. Is that a risk you're going to accept or not? So a couple tips there. First, I showed you the breakdown, how we took technical and translated it to business. And notice what I presented. All I presented to them was the numbers. We didn't get into outages or any of that other stuff. All I basically went to them was, okay, we have a situation that has a 99% chance of occurring, and it will cost us $2 million. Do you want to spend $300K to fix it? So that's first tip. You got to give them the percents and the data. Second tip, I didn't ask them whether they wanted to fix it or not. What I said was, do you accept the risk or do you write a check? If you don't write a check, you're accepting the risk. So I don't want you to come back to me and be all mad when we're out for 4 hours and we lose $2 million, because I told you it's going to happen. Just like it's going to rain sometime this year. It's going to happen. So I'm telling you that this is going to happen, and you decided to accept that risk, even though I gave you an alternative option. You chose not to address it, and therefore I want to be very clear that you've accepted the risk. And we're going to label it and mark it as accepted risk. Now, I'm not saying you get as aggressive as I did, but the point is, you got to make it very clear that they don't get a free out. Because what a lot of executives want to do is basically say, listen, I'm not going to give you the $300K, but I'm also going to make it your problem and not mine. So now when that outage occurs, it's your fault, and I'm going to either get mad at you, demote you, not give you your bonus, or fire you. And it's like, no, this isn't how the game is played. Yes, it's how the game used to be played, but it's not a fair game, and it's not a good game for anybody. It hurts the business. It's a false sense of reality for the executives, and it puts the security person in an unfair position. So we ain't playing this game anymore. You're either going to accept it or you're going to give me the money, but you're not going to push it on me and make it my issue or problem. So that's the first big tip or trick with business continuity. Disaster recovery planning is basically recovering the entire operation to getting back to a normal state. Incident response is fixing the immediate issue so you're no longer infected. So if we had ransomware, disaster recovery would pay the ransom and get us back up and running again. That would be our DR. We've recovered from the disaster. Incident response says, how did they actually get in? How do we fix the vulnerability and make sure they don't get back in again? So they're complementary, but different areas. Most companies just want to do the DR. They want to get back up and running as quick as possible, but they don't want to actually fix the root cause problem. And that's why you see these issues occurring over and over and over again. So you need to make sure that both of those pieces are properly addressed within the organization. And it comes back to, once again, what is acceptable downtime? Right? When you talk about disaster recovery, what you're really talking about is having alternative sites. Do you have a hot site, a warm site, or a cold site? And the difference is how long does it take to recover, right? A hot site is the most expensive, but it's a fully redundant operational facility. So if your primary site goes down, the secondary can take over. Warm is you have equipment, but you don't have accurate, up-to-date data. And cold means you just have a facility. So you, once again, it's disaster recovery, it's reactionary, but you still have to do planning to decide how much do you want to invest to minimize overall downtime when a disaster or incident occurs. Then we have, good morning. Can you please explain the educational route one needs to take to get into cybersecurity? Apply for jobs. Smile, have a good attitude, and do whatever is required of you, and never, ever, ever, ever say to your boss, it's not your job. That's the real answer. Now, if you want me to give the accepted answer that most universities or training organizations want me to give you, it'd be, oh, you have to go and get all your certifications, and you have to go in and memorize a bunch of stuff, and you have to pass a test. But the reality is, I know highly certified people that are out of work, and I know people that don't have any certifications that are gainfully employed. So the reality is, if you want to get into cybersecurity, there's such a big need for entry-level positions that most of these places will train you. They will train you. They will pay for the cert. So my recommendation is do a parallel path. Start studying every day, an hour a day for your Security Plus, and spend an hour a day applying to 10 entry-level security jobs. And basically just keep going. And at some point, you'll have enough cert and you'll have a company that's willing to hire you. But I'll tell you right now, it's topics that nobody wants to talk about, but they're the real topics out there. The biggest issue with entry-level jobs of getting into cybersecurity is, I'll just be honest with you, people don't want to work. I mean, that's the reality. I'll tell you right now, I have a lot of friends that run Security Operations Center. They're looking for entry-level security engineers. And the biggest issue is, Eric, we don't do work from home. It's not practical. We need them in the office. We need them in front of the console. We need them to show up. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to show up to work. It's a crazy thing out there, right? So that's the first one. The second one is people will only do what they want to do. So I've had cases where they go, Eric, we've asked a security engineer to go and troubleshoot a router or troubleshoot a network or work on this or work on that. And they go, oh, that's not my job. It's like, I'm paying you a salary. Basically, your job is whatever I want it to be, right? So the issues today that no one is addressing or talking about is, and I'm not trying to be mean here, it's just the reality, but a lot of people, because of the pandemic, a lot of people right out of school that are looking for these entry-level jobs just don't understand or have an appropriate work ethic. It's an unfortunate reality, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out right in the marketplace. But that's really the biggest issue there, is you can get all the certs that you want, but if you're a difficult employee, if you're not willing to bring in more revenue than what you're making, and you're not willing to go above and beyond to do whatever is in the best interest of the company, coming in early, staying late, working weekends. I mean, that's the part that cracks me up, is people look at where I'm at today and how successful I am. And I'm like, my entry-level jobs, I was getting in at 6:30 and working till 6:30. I would sometimes do a little more work in the evening, And I would usually work 4 to 5 hours on Saturday and a few hours on Sunday planning for the week. That's what gets you to this level, right? But a lot of people don't understand that. They look at very, very successful people and they don't realize how much time, energy, or effort they put in to be able to get to that point. So it really comes down to how committed are you to your career? How committed are you to becoming a world-class cybersecurity engineer? And what are you willing to put in to be able to make that happen? And like I said, parallel path. Get some certs, learning the technology, learning the language isn't going to hurt you. But once again, it's how you show up. It's what you're willing to do. It's your mindset and your attitude that's going to ultimately get you the job and keep the job. Just real simple. You have somebody with 7 certifications, but they go to a job interview and say, listen, I only will come into the office twice a week. I will stop working at 5, regardless of whether my job is done or not. And I will not work weekends. And this is the only work that I will do. Second candidate is working on their Security Plus. They don't have any certs, but they're working on their Security Plus. But they go, listen, I'll be the first person here every day. I'll come in at 6:37 if I need to. And I don't leave until the job is done. If that's 6, if that's 6:30, if that's 7. I'm going to do whatever is necessary to get the job done. And I'm also going to work on myself and career and be willing to come in on weekends if needed. And by the way, anything you need me to do, I will do, and I will learn how to do it, regardless of whether it's in my job description or not. If you were a hiring manager, which one would you hire? Which one would you want working at your company? Right? That's the reality factor. So to me, everyone just wants to talk about certs because it's safe, but nobody wants to have those deeper conversations like I'm having, which is the reality of somebody who runs a company needs people who are going to help and make their company better, that are going to be an asset and not a liability. So do everything you can to be an asset to that company. Do you think there's a difference between information security and cybersecurity? And if yes, what it is? I'll think about it. And I might have a different answer next week for you, my friends. But my initial answer is they're pretty much the same. I mean, there might be subtleties of subtleties, but to me, information security and cybersecurity are really referring to the same thing, right? If you have a chief information security officer, you're not going to have a chief cybersecurity officer, right? The chief information security officer is cyber. I think the only slight difference is the emphasis, where information security is really emphasizing that it's about the data, right? The difference between a major breach or a minor breach is the data that was compromised. So when you're really talking information security or cybersecurity, it's about understanding, managing, and mitigating the risk of your critical data being disclosed, altered, or denied access. So I think the terms cyber seems a little broader, and info is focused much more on the risk to your critical data. But the reality is, in my mind, they're sort of synonymous terms. And other than geeks wanting to debate over a few drinks, right, which I've seen people want to do, I don't really think in a practical sense in a business, trying to argue, debate, or differentiate between info or cyber to execs or non-technical people really has a whole lot of benefit. They're pretty much synonymous in nature. Been working under the CISO for 6 years, getting an MBA. Awesome job getting that MBA. I know that's not easy to do, so good on you for doing that. And want to grow into a CISO mindset, but can that be done isolated under CISO, or should I move into corporate security department? The challenge I have with the question is It depends a lot on the BISO. If the BISO is a true business information security officer, then you should get plenty of cybersecurity experience and knowledge in that role. I mean, the way I look at it is a BISO or a CISO need to know business and need to know security. They need to translate and understand both of those. A BISO is maybe 65% business and 35% cyber. And a CISO is more the 50-50. It's a little bit more of a balance where they're much more involved in the risks and issues, as with a business is more about the continuation of the business. But if your CISO is that 65-35 mix, then you're fine. Now, if your BISO is what some companies do, where they hire a straight MBA who has no experience or knowledge at all in cyber, and they're 95% business and really less than 5% cyber, yes, then you would want to move into the cybersecurity department to get more knowledge, more experience on that front. But here's the other cool part. If you're working under the BISO, there's no reason why you can't start carving out or working on projects that are a little more cyber focused. Bring up to your business person, hey, we haven't had a really good business risk assessment of how well security is integrated into the business unit. That's something that would be important to see, because the more integrated cyber is into our business unit practices, the better and more effective we're going to be. So I was wondering, can I take that on as a side project? Can that be one of my other projects? And then here's the cool part. Most BISOs will say yes. In the rare chance that they say, listen, that's not a high priority project for us. You have way too many other things to do, and I don't want you to focus on that. Then you throw them the golden goose. I understand that. But this is important to me, and I want to understand more about it. And I do think it's important to the business. I agree with you. It might not be the highest priority, but I do think it has value. Is this something I can work on my own time? So I'm not going to take away from an 8 to 5. But if I want to come in earlier or stay later or do some weekends or do some other stuff to be able to work on this, because I do think it has value, but it is important to me. Are you willing to let me do that? And that's really hard for them to say no. I mean, how are they going to come in and be like, no, we don't want you to do more for the company. No, we don't want you to help it further your career. It just doesn't make sense. So that's one of those golden goose eggs that are really, really nice is, hey, I'm willing to put another hat on and give you extra hours. Are you willing to support me in that? When talking percentages and data, do you recommend getting general data from sources such as Gartner and AT&T breach reports, et cetera, incorporating them into the situation? Yes. The better and more accurate data you can get, the better your analysis is. So in a perfect ideal world, your company should have the data. So you should be able to go back, and for the last 10 years, your company should have the data. How many breaches, how many ransomware, how many viruses, what was the impact, what was the cost, how long were we down for, what was the hard cost, what was the... Your company should have all that data. That is the ideal best source for it. If your company doesn't, so for some reason they haven't kept it, they haven't stored it, it's not accessible to you. The next best source of data is industry comparable data. So there's a lot of groups like ISACA and others, like for healthcare, there's ISACA, there's financial service. So join those groups and see if they have data for your industry. So you don't have for your specific bank or your specific oil company or your specific hospital, but you do have it for other hospitals or other financial institutions or other areas. That's the next best. If you can't get that, then the third best is general industry data like you mentioned. Gartner, AT&T, breach reports, those types of things. So those are not my first or second option because they're much more generic and not as specific. But if you don't have the first two, if you can't get specific data about your company or you can't get specific data about your industry, then those sources are better than nothing. They're a lot better than nothing. And then you should use those as the basis because there has to be some basis. Even though 80%, 85, 90%, it is qualitative, not quantitative. It's not mathematical. There is some subjective nature to it. You do want to have some general data or information to back it up. It shouldn't just be, hey, it's my opinion. It should be, it's my expertise and opinion, but here's some additional data and additional sources to better support that information. And then we have Keith in the house. Good morning from Louisiana. Woohoo! So my duty position has changed from networking to IT project management due to a reorg. Do you feel this would still be relevant in the pursuit of a CISO position? Honestly, it's moving in the right direction because networking is very, very technical on IT. So when I hear networking, I don't hear as much cybersecurity and I don't hear as much strategic leadership. However, when I hear IT project management, it's a step in the right direction because now you should, being a program manager, get more leadership. You're going to be running and leading projects. You're going to have to be building out strategies. You're going to have to be looking at revenue and profitability and cost and impact to the business. So it's definitely getting you into that area where you're getting more of that experience that you actually need. The only thing I would say is I don't see that screaming cybersecurity. So I don't know how much as a IT project manager you get to choose or you get to pick or you get to be involved in. But I would definitely try to get some cybersecurity projects. I would definitely lobby heavily, hey, can I work on this project or that? Or be proactive. Go to the security team and say, hey, are you guys rolling out any new technology over the next year? Are you rolling out a SIM or updating your firewalls or any of those things? And if they say yes, hey, I was wondering, can you recommend me as the program manager? I was wondering if maybe I could be involved with that project or run that project for you. So I definitely think it's a move in the right direction. I just think you need to try to steer it as much as you can into more security and less IT and less network. I think that covered all of our questions. Remember, I'm actually doing a lot more on social now. I'm going live every day. We're doing 4 to 5 videos a day. So I'd love your feedback. The only thing I ask is if this is providing value to you, if this is great feedback, tell a friend, tell a few friends, tell a bunch of friends, because I'll be honest with you. The one thing that I scratch my head with is most of you give me a lot of great feedback of how valuable it is and how important it is. But then I look at the numbers and there's 9 people and I'm like, we should be helping a lot more people, right? So I sort of feel like a little, this is the best kept secret. So if you can help me make it a non-secret and get the word out there, right, and start pushing it to other folks, telling other people, throwing a little post on your social, no matter how small your following is, everything counts. Hey, great live with Dr. Cole. Make sure you follow Dr. Cole and check out his Life of a CISO. Anything you can do to put a little word out there, do a little promotion, I would truly thank you. Otherwise, have an amazing day, an amazing week, and I'll continue to see you in the land of social.